Warning, the following video you are about to see comes from a geek and nerd who loves Marvel content and anime shows. Over here, we do not hold our tongue about anything and give you the most honest opinion about our chosen video topic. We do things that other content creators don't do. If you want someone like you to dissect said topic, subscribe and join other geeks in this space. While you are at it, leave a like on the video. Enjoy.
Alright, this is the next day from watching the Guardians of the Galaxy film, and the thoughts and the gripes I had with the movie from watching it yesterday, from like my fresh opinion, kind of has lightened up. Some of the stuff I still have a problem with, but other stuff I'm kind of being more lenient towards. So in my video yesterday, I said that I gave this movie a 7 out of 10, and I'm willing to up it to a 7.5, 8 out of 10. It's probably the highest I'm going on this movie. I still stand with the fact that I don't see it being better than the first Guardians movie. But here we're going to do a in-depth character analysis of these characters and how they progress through the storyline, the Guardians storyline, from the introduction to the ending. We're going to talk about the plot, the good things about the plot, the bad things about the plot, and fully expound on those aspects. And we are going to reveal the mid-credit scene, post-credit scene, what I think they should do and what I think it will, probably will happen going forward. So, all right, so to start with the main man himself, Rocket Raccoon. James Gunn did a great job having Rocket Raccoon's character come to full circle. And I can say he did that. He did a great job with most of the characters in this movie, most of them. And we'll get to everybody else when the time comes. But with Rocket's story, obviously, when we first get Rocket, he doesn't really know what he is. He doesn't really know much about himself. Well, he does know, but it's like it's something he wants to keep away from, keep it secretive. You can see in the movie, you know, in the first Guardians, Peter Quill was like, man, he didn't want to ask, like, what are you? And Rocket didn't really want to explain anything. And we see how the High Evolutionary, or we really don't see, but it kind of implied how the High Evolutionary was experimenting on him, and it was gruesome. Even at one point, you know, Nebula was like, this is even worse than what Thanos did to me, you know. So that was interesting, and we see that plot point. And for most of this movie, Rocket is in a coma-like state. He's kind of like, he reminded me like a raccoon with rabies, because he had like the white stuff on his mouth. But he's kind of just sitting there, you know. He's going through the process of like being in the real world and afterlife. And they do it, and James Gunn has a great scene where Rocket is kind of like in the afterlife, and we see Lila, we see Teefs, and we see Floor. We see them, and then Lila's like, it's not your time yet. And then he wakes back up. But before that, we have to talk about like what was like the major gruesome scenes. Why was Rocket so traumatized and didn't want to talk about his past? His past was gruesome, it was terrifying. Now, High Evolutionary was really using them as guinea pigs. He was basically a guinea pig. And Rocket was an exception, an anomaly, whereas everyone else was kind of like, okay, I'm experimenting on you and I'm throwing you away. Or Rocket, he ends up like finding out something with another evolutionary being that how Evolutionary was trying to create. And Rocket says no, and this is Baby Rocket. He's like, yeah, this is how you fix this. This is how you make them not to where they're not feral or aggressive or whatever. Push comes to shove, Rocket gets woken back up, and he fights. Now, like I said, most of this movie, Rocket wasn't in the movie. Baby Rocket was in this movie, but Rocket wasn't in the movie. So the other part, he was just in a coma state. The fight scene, they didn't have a lot of fight scenes, but the full circle aspect comes to where we see Rocket, he finally says, and there's always been a thing where Rocket was like, man, I'm not a raccoon, I don't know what I am. He goes to the baby raccoons, he looks at the little tag, and it says raccoon, and he's like, yeah, I'm Rocket Raccoon. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that was fire. So that's Rocket's storyline. Moving on to probably the next important character I want to say, Adam Warlock. Now, I say important very, very loosely. Adam Warlock was probably the character that a lot of people were going into and thinking, man, I want to see what he's going to do, what he's going to be like. And they kind of explain all the crap he's going to do in the movie by saying how Evolutionary took him out of his cocoon a little early. Why he did that, I don't know. They explain it like that. And Adam Warlock has probably one of the best entrances I've ever seen in the MCU. He came in a little earlier than I would have thought he would have came in. I was thinking we probably would see him like closer from like in the middle to the end, but right off the bat, right, Adam Warlock is, and he gets Rocket, and Rocket escapes, and I'm like, oh, and how he's fighting with Drax and Nebula. It's like, oh, Adam Warlock like he can be powerful. And then we get to the end, Adam Warlock looks sweet. He looks just like a normal dude, and I think that's kind of the thing I didn't like about Adam Warlock was because James Gunn humanized him. Adam Warlock is almost like a god, if not a god. He's up there. And obviously, this is the MCU, so we're not going to get Adam Warlock where he's exactly like he is in the comics. But dang, at least try to make him similar. Because this Warlock we got, now we have to wait for ironically, we have to wait for him to evolve and get older. This Adam Warlock we got is like, bro, what is this? Y'all show glimpses of what he can be. And then the other part, he's like, he's stupid. He's messing around with the little kiwi looking animal thing. He's messing around with that and the jokes, using them to tell jokes. And I'm like, James Gunn, it was turning me off, bro. But that was Adam Warlock's character. That's kind of the gist I got about that. Not really much character development. If anything, they kind of scaled him back so he can be developed. Moving on to Drax. Drax's full circle moment became where, Guardians 1, he was portrayed not perfectly sustainable in Volume 1. Then we go to Volume 2, and it's a whole different tone shift. It's a whole different person. He's even more jokey. Now, he was jokey in Volume 1, but he's even more jokey. He's even more to where we definitely don't take him serious, which is one gripe I've always had about Drax. Now, I think in one of my videos, I said I had a theory of what would happen to Drax. I honestly thought Drax would die in this movie. Unfortunately, no one died. And you're probably thinking, why would you want somebody to die in the movie? But it would have gave more of an impact, more of a loss, more of a this and that. But you can argue it was already enough emotions going on in this film. But we did have scares. Drax got shot like 2-3 times. I thought he was gonna die there, which would have been sad because that was the beginning of the movie. He bangs with Adam Warlock. He's banging out, and then Adam Warlock tortures him. So, that was cool. But going back, Drax was Drax to destroy, but he had his family destroyed, and that would have been cool, kind of not cool to see, but kind of it would have been better if we kind of got that to see his family kind of being taken away, kind of how we got Gamora's backstory in Infinity War, because it would have gave more depth into his family, him loving his family, and all that. But we see that, and at the end of this movie, Nebula says, Drax, you were never meant to be a destroyer, but you were meant to be a dad. And it's like, man, that does hit you. That does hit you in the feels a little bit. It does do what it's supposed to do. But Drax, he was. I watched E-Man, a couple of Just My Opinion. They were saying Drax was shown off to be a little more stronger. Honestly, he should have been shown more stronger than what he was in this movie. And he kind of really, I know the consensus was everybody got their moment to shine. I guess Drax's would be when he helped the kids, communicating with the kids. But James Gunn even made a joke out of that and was like, yeah. And Nebula was like, why didn't you know that the whole time? Well, you didn't ask. It's like, Drax, just do it. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that was kind of pissing me off. Speaking of Nebula, we got to talk about her. Now, I already talked about Nebula in my Guardians of the Galaxy predictions video that I made. But Nebula, obviously, she was working with Thanos, very under Thanos, was a bad, evil villain. And she's kind of... I can see why some people would be mad at her. She wasn't really pissing me off that much until she kept getting on to Drax and Mantis. Because it was like, okay, first couple times it was warranted. They keep making mistakes. But then it's like, bro, you keep doing it. You keep saying it. And you get the sisterhood between Nebula, and you get this Nebula and Gamora. That was fine. But yeah, not really too much development going on with Nebula in this movie alone. But her development occurred, from the beginning, and it was here. But like I said, from Endgame to now, it really wasn't much development with Nebula's character, if I had to say so. Nebula's sister, Gamora. Gamora, I felt like she was kind of just introduced in a way to have her in the film. Because honestly, kind of like Adam Warlock, both of them could have been gone. I don't think neither one of them was needed in this movie at all. Because I can't really think of a thing that Gamora did that was like, oh, that's Gamora. She kind of really showed out there. I'm really trying to think. But maybe it'll come to me later on. But y'all let me know in the comments. But I couldn't think of anything that was like, man, Gamora is showing why she needs to be here. Except the fact that we got again the plot point between Peter Quill and Gamora. How many times are we going to see Peter Quill suffer and cry over Gamora? Peter Quill was a dude who was like a womanizer when we first got introduced to him. Now he gets in love to one person and he can't get over her. Peter Quill, this is not your version of Gamora. Stop it. You know, get over it. You know, and just the constant scenes, and it got so bad to where Gamora ended up pushing Peter Quill off her, and Peter Quill was kind of like giving me like creep vibes almost. Just like, dude, you keep giving a woman unwanted attention. Now, I'm not trying to insinuate what y'all think I'm trying to insinuate, but it had those vibes and tones to it to me. Speaking of Peter Quill, and this is the kind of the bad thing about giving everybody their time to shine. When you give everybody their time, no one really has their time because the time's all divided. His main thing was just the Gamora aspect, really. You know, he helped out, you know, and we saw James Gunn showed his love for Rocket Raccoon, and him being probably the most willing out of the group to get, or the most like showing out of the group to get Rocket back to being healthy and being safe. And that was basically it with Quill. But we'll talk about the post-credit scene at the end. But Peter Quill, other than the post-credit scene, what we can expect more out of him, Mantis character was, we got introduced to Mantis in Volume 2. I didn't like the holiday special to me, but the holiday specials when they kind of started really introducing a thing between her and Drax and their little budding friendship. And that really comes full force in this movie, where you see Mantis takes up for Drax going against Nebula when Nebula was fussing at him, and you see Drax, you know, taking up for Mantis. At the end, you know, where Drax is like, well, you need somebody to protect you. And Mantis is like, no, I don't. I don't need nobody to protect me. I'm good. And she gets the little animals. I think Mantis, I know a lot of people was talking about they didn't really care for Mantis' character. She really made me like her in this movie. She really did. From someone who didn't care for her in Volume 2. I liked her here. I really did. I felt like she might have had a little more development-wise, more than Drax, unless you're talking about the part where we're just speaking on the dad part. But Mantis, she was cool in the little power she has, which is really OP. Even though she doesn't try to use it as OP. It's cool, but she was, you know, understanding the beast who were seeming like they were misunderstood. You know, Nebula was finna shoot the beast and beat him up, but she was like, no, they're just, you know, they need love and this and that. And she ends up taking them over. So how they ended off with Mantis, they could go the Disney Plus route. Would a Mantis Disney special or Disney Plus show do good? There is a market audience for a Mantis special. I would probably watch it. I'll probably watch it depending on what was going on. But High Evolutionary, forgot about him. High Evolutionary, we have to talk about him, the villain thing. Oh, he's the best MCU villain, Chawudi Kajudi Badudi, that dude, he did a great job as High Evolutionary. You really hated him. But that's the only thing you could really get out of this villain, was that you hated him. You hated what he was doing to these characters. And just the thought of hurting animals and this, it was really disgusting and really inhumane. But that doesn't make a good villain. A good villain makes it to where you hate him, you hate what he's doing, but you can still kind of sympathize with it. Thanos, for example. With Thanos was a good villain because he knew what he was doing was wrong, yet he still was doing it. He had a logical reason for doing it. He was twisted, he was strong, he was powerful. He had a lot of character depth. That's why Thanos was a good villain. Wanda, a better villain than High Evolutionary. Wanda, she had her reasonings. We got WandaVision. Then Wanda is the villain of the movie of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but she doesn't even know she's the villain of the movie. You know, so and she's doing something where she thinks she's good. Zemo, I told my girl, Zemo, I feel like was a better villain than High Evolutionary. Why? Because even though Zemo can't fight hand to hand, High Evolutionary can't fight hand to hand either, but they boosted him like he could. He got washed by the Guardians of the Galaxy, who neither one of them have powers except for Drax and Mantis. You know, Drax is strong, I guess that's a power, and Mantis has the little mind thing. Zemo took the Avengers, made them go against each other, had a reason for doing that, used the Winter Soldier, did this, did that. and had a whole bunch of people fighting, and they still didn't even get all the issues resolved until Infinity War. Zemo was a villain with no powers and it was powerful. Those are great villains. You know, Green Goblin, a great villain. It's just I don't think the thing of, oh, you hate him, so he's the best MCU villain. I don't like that take. I don't. Because there's a lot of villains I hate, you know, and for me, a person like me who wasn't so soft to the animal cruelty, the just hated him because of the animal cruelty part doesn't justify it for me for him to be a good villain. But that doesn't take away from from Chibuti's portrayal as High Evolutionary or anything. But that's just my take on that. Groot was a character who didn't get their own time to shine, except when Groot pulled them guns out of his body. When Groot pulled them guns out of his body, I was like, oh my God. Because in the trailer, you don't see him pull it out his wood. Pause. You don't see him pull it out. But when he did that, and then him and Quill was pew, 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 that was his moment. But other than that, he really ain't do nothing. Except the big scene at the end where he said, I love you all, or I love you guys. And Vin Diesel's voice, talking like regular, it really showed. You can really tell that's Vin Diesel. But that was it. And I have a theory with that I haven't seen anybody say except for E-Man in them, but I was thinking in the theater, when that happens, he doesn't really talk English. Because if he would have talked English, I feel like there would have been a reaction throughout the other Guardians. When that happened, no one had a reaction. So I took that as the audience being part of the family and us understanding what Groot could say now. Now, does that mean he's going to be talking in the next couple movies? I don't think so. I don't know. I think that was just a way to just end it off and cap it off. And I kind of knew they were going to do something like that at the end, but I didn't know how James Gunn was going to have that in the movie. But last but not least, we have to talk about the Arrowhead dude and Cosmo. The Arrow dude, he protected nowhere, but that was it. You know, I could care less about him. It's cool seeing the Arrow, seeing him control the Arrow, even though he was trash at it. Cosmo is finna be a very important piece to this new Guardians team, which we'll talk about. He's finna be very important. Cosmo, I forgot the dude that could telekinesis, but when he moved the rock, I was like, okay, he's moving the rock. But then, when he moved a whole ship and kept it at bay in place to help all the children escape, I'm like, this dog is powerful. He was moving stuff with his mind and was smashing, killed the war pig. I was like, ooh, okay. So, Cosmo and the Arrowhead dude, I feel like they'll do great in the new Guardians team. But other than that, you know, that was that. So, my negative points of the plots I kind of already hinted on was the Peter Quill thing. High Evolutionary not really being, to me, he wasn't a great villain that I feel like he should have been. The jokes was probably my most disliked thing in this movie, bro. Because James Gunn's way of telling jokes is not subtle. You know, in Infinity War, you have the I am Groot, I am Steve Rogers. That's subtle. But here, it's like you're force feeding the joke. And then the car scene was one where it's like, okay, he says the F-bomb, which everybody knew was coming, but it was unwarranted. He could have just said the D word or something, but he says the F-bomb, and it's like, okay, it's like there really was no reason to do that. Some of the jokes, they'll stop the fast-paced movie and we'll be getting serious, and then they'll do a joke, a stupid joke at that. Serious, oh. Especially when the sentimental moments. Like the moments where Mantis had Drax go up and help Peter Quill out with his thing with Gamora. And then it gets jokey. And with Drax going off on a tangent. The thing with Nebula, Drax, and Mantis again. That scene where Nebula's shouting at Drax, Nebula's shouting at Nebula's shouting at Drax, Mantis is shouting at Nebula to protect Drax. And they're like, oh, he's stupid, he's a dummy. And it's like, dude, that's what I kind of don't understand, bro. We have the thing where it's like, okay, we demasculating the men and all, emasculating whatever. But no one has a problem when Drax is being the strongest person there and constantly being called stupid in front of his face. It's just weird to me. So if you had a problem with the She-Hulk stuff with Hulk, you can't say that that was them demeaning Drax was okay. You can't say that because now you're being a hypocrite. The good parts a lot of people want to talk about was the fight scene. The hallway fight scene was cool, but the music was not it. The soundtrack, a lot of people were like, man, this is the banging soundtrack. A soundtrack could be cool. I like rap. If James Gunn would have had this movie be full of rap music, it wouldn't have been better. Even though I like it, just because the music is in the movie that I like doesn't mean it fits the movie. And for one, I forgot what song was in the background, but it wasn't, bro. I needed some heavy metal, some rock and roll. I needed some hard stuff when they was fighting. Or just, how about this? Don't have any sound at all in that scene. Think of how much better that scene would have been if it's just silent. You hear the blasters. You hear the noises of Groot doing what he's doing. You hear the Nebula when she's getting beat up, and then she does the thing where her body is contorted and she's, that would have been fire. But instead, it's like a montage, and it's like, ugh. That's the vibe I was getting off of that. And the gruesome, going back to the gruesome stuff, I know this is gonna be a long video, but that part of the movie was more gruesome. Specifically, when Mantis had her arm broke and her arm was like this, and she was still doing what she was doing, and she used the healing pack and was, and then Nebula being all bent up and stuff. I was like, ooh, that was doing it for me. Even kind of a little bit when Groot was just the head and he was crawling, that looked a little creepy. But everything else didn't look creepy to me. Yeah, the plot was cool. It was good for what it needed to be. It was a closing movie. My friend asked me, does this set anything up? No, it doesn't. Not really. And that's kind of good, especially what's going on right now with Jonathan Majors. Probably good not to set anything up. But it was just a Guardians film. And maybe it's because of me that I didn't really love it like some people did, because I don't really like the Guardians trilogy. That was that. So moving on to the post-credit scene or scenes, we see the new team. Now I hit on a little bit with the kids, but the new Guardians team consists of Alpha Group, who look crazy, amazing, wonderful. I want to see what new abilities Alpha Group's gonna have now. I'm kind of interested in seeing how long that was from the main movie, because look, a lot of time had been passed by there. We see him, we see Aerodude, we see Cosmos, Adam Warlock, and a new girl who is apparently Phyla L, Marvel's daughter, which they kind of imply because her eye glowed. But a glowing eye isn't enough to really tell me that that's Marvel's daughter. I wasn't getting, I had to look that up. That was interesting. If that's being the new Guardians film, will I see the movie? I don't know. But I said the same thing about this Guardians movie. I was like, bro, I'm gonna see it, but I'm probably not gonna be hyped about it until they started, oh, this is this great movie, the best movie since Endgame, which it wasn't. The Guardians team can be cool depending on what they're doing. I'm interested into seeing their development. I am interested in seeing where Rocket goes from here. Adam Warlock, Cosmo, Groot especially. My girlfriend pointed out, because I was asking, I was like, bro, why was the other group so skinny and our new group is buff? Well, she said, my teacher was like, when plants are getting love or whatever, they can grow, which is something I've heard of before. So maybe he's getting buff and getting swole because he's feeling love from his family, in which the first group probably didn't feel a lot of love. It was just him and Rocket, and they was like just bounty hunters. So that's a good explanation for that. Peter Quill, the post-credit scene with that, now that he is finally on Earth, who is he linking up with? What is he doing on Earth? The fact that they said Peter Quill will return at the end and not any of the other Guardians lets me know they might do a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but it depends on what's going on in like the MCU at that time. Because right now, I don't see where another Guardians of the Galaxy movie fits. But I can see where Peter Quill could fit on Earth. It's a lot of stuff that's finna be going on Earth right now. So I'm interested in seeing what he doing in that scene. He goes back to his grandpa, which I would have thought would have been dead. He does look like he's on his deathbed. So that was accurate. But he said his grandpa had to be like 90. That seems about right. Cause he was looking kind of like he was like 40 or so. Peter Quill was a kid. But what do y'all think about where Peter Quill will be going from now, seeing his new story progress? But that's all I really got, man. What did y'all think of the video? Of the video and of the movie? Did you like the movie? Did you love it? Where do you have it ranked right now? I've seen some people say it's top 3 MCU, top 5 MCU. I don't see that in my list. I might do another ranking list. You know, I'm probably gonna wait until the end of the year as my channel grows more and wait till Marvels comes out. Secret Invasion is the next thing, so I'll be doing every episode spoiler reviews for Secret Invasion, so be on the lookout for that. But if you love the video, like the video. If you don't love the video, still like the video. I'm on the road to 100 subscribers. I appreciate everybody who subscribed to me, and yeah, thank you for making it this far. If you have made it this far, I know this is a long video, probably closer to 30 minutes. I'm out. Peace.